Now, I don't know about you, but it seems like a few times during the year, the students get a little more crazier. That usually happens end of September through October into the beginning of November, that big span where there's no holidays. And then once again, the end of February, all the way usually till April when we're waiting for spring break, right? When there's really no holidays. So when they go a long time without having a break and they're going 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, that can be a lot for them. And some students don't know how to handle all that extra energy and, the monotonous part of it. And so it's hard to get them continuously to keep doing the work, to be getting involved. So that's what I'm talking about today, is student engagement and what are some things you can do to help engage your students. Hi, I'm Christy. I'm a middle school science teacher with over 25 years experience in the classroom. And I love helping other teachers empower their students to take more ownership of their learning. So let's get started. Now, we all know the research about student engagement, how the more students are engaged in your classroom, the more they're going to learn, the more they're going to participate, the better their behaviors are going to be, right? And the more relationship building they're going to have with you. So what are some things that we can do to help our students stay engaged? So I've got 5 things to help you stay engaged in your science classroom. Now, I must say, with science class, we do have it a little easier because science itself is an engaging topic. So with your science class, let's talk about some things that you can do. Number one thing that you can do to help your students stay engaged is to get them up and moving during the class time. And that can happen in many different ways. You could actually have a lab where they are physically going to have to get up out of their seats and move around and stand and, get something. So a hands-on lab is a great way to get them engaged, to get them moving. Another thing that you can do is if you are doing an activity, you can have them a few times during the class period get up, move around, maybe do some different things like lines of communication where they have to get in one line, all your A's in one line, your B students in the other line, if you do the A-B students, and have them talk and discuss about what they were just learning about. Maybe 3 things that they learned, or a question they have, or the big idea from the section they had so far, and that will get them up and moving. You can also have it where you do like the numbered heads, where they go into different corners, they talk about what it is they wrote down, they discuss what their answers are and what their group came up with, and then they head back to the original group, and that's where they can then, discuss more. So it's getting them up, it's getting them to get out of their seats, and by doing that, you're actually helping them, you're helping their brain move, because after a while, if you've ever been in one of the been in professional development, right, where you're sitting for a long time, I don't know about you, but I myself, I can't handle sitting for that long. It is tiring. So that's what the students are feeling. They need to get up also. So getting them up, getting them moving around, having them do something where they're just talking for a little bit, that is a great thing for them to do. So getting them moving, that's number 1. Number 2, offering student choice. Now, student choice is something I love to do because after 25 years of teaching, I have an abundance of activities for every single unit that I teach. And in fact, I have too many. So every year, there's a lot of activities I don't actually get to. And I learned a long time ago, instead of me choosing the activity for them that they're going to do that day, I have the students choose the activity instead. Now, sometimes that might mean that they choose ahead of time and I prepare it. And I say, okay, these are your choices, and they prepare it, and everyone's doing the same thing. But many times it means that I have students doing different things in the classroom at the exact same time. Maybe I have students doing an online lab because that's what they like to do. They like to work with technology and they like to do it that way. Other students might be doing a hands-on lab. Same topic, same idea, but theirs is hands-on because they know that they would rather physically get up out of their seats and move around and do it that way. So, and I have others who they want to watch a video and Instead, write a comic strip or an infographic, right? There's different ways to learn the materials. And if you have a whole bunch of activities for a particular unit, instead of you choosing what the students are going to be doing, have them choose. By having them choose, there's a few things that's going on. Number one, they become better decision makers, right? The only way you can become a better decision maker is by making decisions. So they're going to be choosing activities that they think are going to help them the most, and then they can reflect on, okay, did that activity really help me? Should I have chosen something else? Another thing is, by having them choose, they're going to be more engaged and empowered to actually do the activity, right? They're going to want to do the activity because they're the one who chose it. It wasn't being told you have to do this. Instead, they're the ones who chose it. So student choice is a huge thing. Number three, have them do something like a project-based learning. Now, I know that not all the standards lend itself easily to project-based learning, but there are some that are pretty well designed for a project-based learning activity. For example, the standard on synthetic versus natural, where the students have to do research on synthetic products and understand how they come from natural products, right? That's a great one for them to do some type of project-based learning on, where maybe they're learning how different things are made. I have my students choose between different things, disposable diapers or cloth diapers or plastic bottles or glass bottles or even plastic grocery bags versus our paper grocery bags, right? And what you can do is have the whole entire project-based learning thing be settled around the environment. What is actually better for the environment, better for society? And they can do that research where they're coming up with something. And, it's interesting to see after they've done their research, which, that one in that particular standard, the standard says that they have to gather the information. So that's one that I don't even give them information. I don't give them links. I don't give them websites. I teach them how to use Google and how to actually click on the website, not just read the synopsis, but click on the website and read through it, find the information. I teach them how to use YouTube to gather that stuff too. But I'm teaching that stuff. I'm teaching them how to do the research, but they're the ones who are doing the research. They're the ones who are going to have the discussion about which ones are better for the environment, which ones is better for the society. Should we use the synthetic or should we use the natural? Is the synthetic actually better for us than the natural when it comes to the environment? So doing something like that. Another one would be like Newton's third law, which is on collisions, right? You can have them do a project-based learning where they are creating a device that will limit maybe the impact of concussions for different sports like soccer, football, rugby. Doing those, it kind of like helps them understand that science is there for a reason. It's not just to learn the parts of an atom, right? It's there for a reason. So to get involved in your community. So that's number three. Next one, number four. Talking about getting involved in your community, do some real life situations. Instead of giving them things that have been made up, that aren't realistic, actually use real life scenarios. What is actually going on? Find data in your local newspaper, in local magazines, where they can be talking about our particular standard and what's going on. For example, if you have amusement parks next to you, why not during your physics actually talk about the different rides of those amusement parks that the students know? Have them look up and research that actual roller coaster to find out the speed it's supposed to go at. How high is it? What is that drop going to be? So that way they're actually involved in something that they're familiar with, they enjoy, but now they're learning the science behind it. And the fifth way to help with student engagement is to do some more inquiry-based activities. Instead of doing activities where everything is scripted and they're going through the information, have them actually create the activity. So if you're, for example, if you're doing Newton's second law, You could provide them with same size balls with different mass. You could provide them maybe different surfaces, smooth surface, rough surface, and have them create their own experiment using different materials that they're given to do the standard. Just give them a question, okay? Here's a question, here's materials. How are you going to test this question out? What are you going to do? What data are you going to gather? What conclusions did you draw from that, right? Have them do their own inquiry-based investigations, learning more about the information, but providing them that. Now you can do a guided inquiry where you're kind of prompting them along the way. You're still not having a script where it's direction 1, 2, 3. You're just kind of prompting them like, to answer this question, what materials would you use? Okay, and write it down. All right, how would you test that materials? How many times would you test it? So you're kind of guiding them in the inquiry, but again, they're still coming up with it. By doing more inquiry investigations, which I love to do at the very beginning of a unit, before I actually give them the actual information. So by doing more inquiry investigations, I'm getting their brains thinking. I'm getting them more excited about what we're going to be learning, and they're kind of trying to figure out, okay, what am I seeing? What is happening? What conclusions am I drawing from this? That way, when they actually do get the information, they can sit there and say, okay, yes, that's what I saw, so this explains it, or, oh, I saw something completely different, or that's not what I got. Let me think about why I got one idea and this is the other one. So inquiry investigations are a great way, again, to engage the students, to get them thinking about the topic, and to, again, put the ownership on them, the ownership of learning on them. Because ultimately, that's what we want. We want to make these students lifelong learners, right? We want them to love learning and empower them to be successful in learning. And the only way to do that, again, is to provide opportunities that allow them to take ownership of the learning, allow them to take chances, to try things out on their own. So those are my 5 ways for engaging students in the classroom. Now, one thing you might think about is, what always comes up is, okay, with all these ideas, these are great, but what about grading them? My question to you is, do you have to grade everything? What's the purpose of your grading? Are you grading just to put something in the grade book? Or are you grading it because you're providing feedback? And if you're providing feedback, do you have to actually you yourself grade it? Or could you just provide feedback verbally to the students? Could you have that discussion with some of these activities and talk about it? If there's not an end of a unit assessment, could you, as a formative, just discuss what are you seeing, what are you talking, okay, what evidence do you have to support that? Why would that be evidence you could use? Why would this not be evidence? What evidence, why is this evidence more powerful than this one? Having those discussions. Not everything has to be graded, right? You don't have to grade everything. I mean, that can be exhausting. Could you do a lab without grading it? Absolutely. Could you have that discussion, talk about what they're seeing and why they're seeing it? Yes. That discussion itself could be a way of assessing where your students are at without having to make an actual formal grade. Now, for the projects and stuff like that, if they're end of the unit projects, then the easiest way to do it would be through a rubric that clearly states what you are expecting of the students for that project. The students have it ahead of time, you can go through it, and having a rubric makes it much easier just to check off and have that grading done. So for me, almost everything I do is based on a rubric, and I don't grade everything. So if you have any questions about that, let me know in the comments, and I would love to have that discussion with you. Thanks for watching.